This is Show versus Business, where pop culture meets pop money with your host, the real Theo Harvey and Mr. Benja. So, Mr. Benja, what's been going on?
Man, it's been wild, and we are officially in 2024, getting the 2024 New Year flow on. Man, it sounds like we're in the future. If you watch stuff like the old Terminator movie, they talk about things going down in 2029. We're about to start hitting that era, man. And we got some interesting ones. Some things you might want to talk about, we might not. People are calling people out again, not just Cat Williams, but everybody's jumping on it. Stephen A. Smith, the business bully. Your boy Alex Hormozi is out here putting investments into community and not into social media as much. We got Elon Musk talking noise as usual with the X, the Everything app. We've been watching some things. I went ahead and watched Blue Eye Samurai. You told me to check that out, and Star Wars and Disney Plus. I just dropped, but you're apparently still on it. We got to talk about that maybe. All kinds of stuff going on, man. AI versus intellectual property people. Why aren't they messing with the intellectual property laws, like, at a corporate level? It only appears like regular people are crying about it, and there's always some influencer doing something out there, so, a lot going on this week. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good, man. This is the second week, or we just finished the second week in January. So I'm on my 10X is easier than 2X tip. Got my one sheet with from
Yep,
Dr.
yep.
Benjamin Hardy with my goals. On the way, before we film this podcast, I was telling you a little bit about putting my daughter on to we did our goal setting, last weekend. And we talked about goal setting and preparing for that. And I was listening to the podcast, Dr. Benjamin Hardy's podcast in the car with her from lunch. And I said, "Hey, this is exactly what I was telling you, why we do the things we do." And she was just like, she's a preteen, so 11, 12 years, all about to be 12. So she rolls her eyes. But man,
She
I'm
grown.
putting yeah, she grown, man. So I'm putting seeds in her right now, man. These seeds I may not see for years, decades even, but I'm sure it's gonna come sprout up one day. She might have a podcast of her own and she'll talk about Dr. Benjamin Hardy. So there you go, man. This is one of those things you just plant the seed and you just let it ride. So yeah, I was telling her about the goal setting. So I'm super hyped. Like I almost got down on myself this week, Mr. Benja, because I was like, man, I don't think I got a lot done. And then I did my weekly review. That was a banger. I was like, "Dang, I did all this?"
Nice, nice.
It was like one of those things where you say, "Oh, wow, I closed some deals, moved forward with some of my funnels. I, spent some time with my kids. I did everything I pretty much put on the thing to do." But in the moment, there was moments where I was just resting and I was like, "I'm a joker right now," or "I'm watching too much TV."
Yeah,
But then when
yeah.
you reflect back on the whole weekend, you're like, "Wow, I did get a lot done." You just don't realize that until you put it in context. And now I see the power of focus on the gain, not the gap. And so look at the positive momentum you gained last week. And that gave me energy. Oh, wow. So I'm super excited that we're going to do even more next week. And so I think I cracked the codes. I'll keep you posted
Mhm.
over
Okay,
the
okay.
next several weeks and months, but I'm super excited about what's possible here.
I like how that sounds, man, and I know what you're talking about. It's that I don't wanna say defeatist, but you feel like, man, did I even make a dent? Did I do anything? And what's all this for? Why do I feel like this? I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I'm like, I was getting this little down feeling, right? And then I jumped online and one of my friends randomly pops on Instagram and says, "Hey, I like that podcast you did about such and such." And I was like, this guy was like the head of one of the big video game organizations out there, and he's all connected to people, comes from Harvard, and he gave me this shout out, and I was like, you know what? If that guy gave me a shout out, cool, man, I'm feeling better. So I started latching on just recently to this new thing. I'm calling it. Other people have used this phrase, but I'm calling it like the next logical step. Like when you're in the middle of doing something, if you're iterating properly, you've got, at least for me, it works when I don't feel I've got everything done, but I'm working in the middle of something, and then I'm like, "Okay, let me close this off, and tomorrow I'll come back and add this piece," and it starts giving you a little bit of hope for the next day. Like, it's
Mhm.
incomplete, you're not done, you don't feel good about it not being done, but you feel good about the process and knowing that there's something coming tomorrow or the next week or on the next cycle. But you can
Mhm.
just feel good about that. Oh man, we're going to save this one for the sequel. By the time the sequel comes out, that'll be good. So it's like this constantly moving goal. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I think one moment, me and my marketing lead, we were working on a project in marketing. And I was like, "We did this a year ago, it didn't go too well, we were struggling, but that's oh, we need to get this done today." So we just scrambled, got this thing up and running from a marketing play standpoint, and we did it, and it was like, wow, all those skills we learned that was painful a year ago, it was like a snap now, and just
Yeah.
blew my mind. It's almost what's the term? Like maybe Iron Man, you build on what you already know, but you forget that you really have moved far until you go back to it again. You're like, "Oh, this is easy."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's and then even at the beginning of the year, I said this on my Thursday Night Live with one of my entrepreneur that I speak to on a weekly basis. Shout out Thursday Night Live with Theo on IG. Check it out. Bars. What we talked about was I'm super excited because now when I said at the beginning of the year from scratch, okay, wow, I'm a new person, I'm a new man, we're gonna get this going. But then you realize, wait a minute, I've gained all these skills from last year. So you start compressing everything. So, oh, I already know how to do this. I just need to add this little piece to it. Oh, I've done this before. And you forgot, you don't start from zero. Sometimes I always, oh, make ground zero again, new year. But it's
Yeah.
almost like, oh, I just do more of what I did before, but better now that I know more, have more context, have different viewpoints. Now, when I go back to that thing, I was like, oh, why was I struggling with that? It's not that hard anymore. And so that to me is amazing. So I definitely highly recommend everyone just relish the game, man. If you don't, then it's just changing my life because that's giving me energy and fuel to do more. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Just really relish the gain and record the gain. Because if you don't record the gain, you're gonna forget that you did it and then you're gonna get frustrated. So anyway, that's my 2 cents. But I know exactly what you're talking about. The next logical step in moving forward and getting an energy for the next day and kind of add it to it. So I love it.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if you ever had a run in with this concept of show me something today. That today concept. We had that at one of my previous companies. All of a sudden, it was just like, hey, big dog manager person high up in the company wants to see this. Okay, when? Today. And it's everybody just does the spit take. Huh? Spits out all their water. What? And the whole thing is just, yeah, let's stop what we're doing. Laser light focus on this one thing. They wanted a demo of a certain piece of the game. It's, hey, listen, I don't care what else happens. Just show me this today. And it's amazing how that today thing can just everything else just goes out the window and you can really focus and get stuff done. So in my journaling, we're talking about Benjamin Hardy. One of the things I did at the beginning of the year was updated my journaling. So now I have this concept of today. So I start the day, I'm writing out my ideas, thoughts, goals, aspirations, whatever you want to call them on one side of the paper. And at the very top, I started using that space above the date. I just write in today and then something's got to happen. It's like, all right, I'm going to put together a website for, and I was like, you know what? I don't even feel like paying for a website. Let me just throw up a Blogger website. But it
Mhm.
was done today. It was a free one from Blogger, created that. And I was like, huh, that's cool. Oh, they added this and this today. I started dumping stuff on it. I was like, we're supposed to go to video and screw video. I'm going to record the podcast today.
Mm.
And it was just like, that just one word in that at the top of my journal entry for the day, it just said, "Today, this we're going in this direction."
Mhm.
So, it's just a very interesting and freeing, actually. It actually frees me of a lot of responsibility because 'cause I'm like, "Okay, all that other stuff to the side, nothing's gonna burn down and explode in the span of 24 hours. I can do this today."
Mm.
So
And Dr. Benjamin Hardy talks about that all the time, just the compressing time frames. And so
mm,
let's say you have a 10-year goal, can you get done in a year? Let's say your year goals, can you get it done in 90 days? Your
yeah,
90-day goals, can you get it done in a week? And so if you can start compressing and to your point, your mind finds what it's searching for. So if you start looking for ways to compress that time frame, you'll find it. And it's
yeah,
amazing if you just put like that today helps you filter. that's your floor, right? That's your filter now. And so now you're like, hey, I have to get this done today. So what does that mean? Does it mean there's different ways you could do it? You could, like you said, you could build a big old website, set all this up, go to WordPress, or you find a blog. Is that's fine. That's today. I
Yeah,
got it
yeah.
going today. So I love that, man. The way to raise your floor on the timing mechanism of when you get your things done. And that's what I'm learning too. I want to compress that time frame because there's a lot of things, I want to do. And man, we could talk about this for hours, Mr. Benja. We
R
could.
r
We really could.
Real quick, and this is gonna lead into the next part. Really quick, the the idea of who, not how, we were
Yeah.
talking about whether the who is ChatGPT or a person or just whatever, not necessarily you doing the whole thing being the point that's important. But I remember I called somebody and said, "Hey, listen, what would you think about the normal requirements were as is, as we expected?" But you call them and say, "Hey, would you be okay with the site being like this or the logo being this way and this and that, and then later on we can," and they were like, "Oh, yeah, sure. I don't care about such and such. The thing I really want is X, Y, and Z." And I was like, "Good, because I can get you that today." And it was just it's like when you start bringing in other people and making sure that their requirements are met too, because I didn't realize how much I was thinking about. I'm always thinking about the end user, like coming from video games. The person like to play it this way. Will they turn off the game? And there's this unknown user out there who's playing the game that you're trying to think about. But in a lot of these social situations, I can just call them and be like, "Hey, what about this? That's not great, but I can get it to you today." Oh, oh, cool. Yeah, sure. I'll take that. What about what about next week? We'll get to that later, but I can get you this today. Sure. That other person is going to take 4 days just to evaluate. And today, bro, I got you. But that's
I
my
love
word
that.
of the day. Today.
Today. You gotta say it just like that. Put bass in your voice. Say it with your
To
chest.
today. Speaking of today, I learned that Alex Hormozi. I don't know if you knew about this one. Let me ask you this. Did you know Alex Hormozi is investing in Skool, putting in a stake? You sent me his tweet, but I didn't know that he was actually putting in money to this thing.
Let's first define what school is. It's not your typical public school that we went to
Nope.
elementary all the way to high school. This is basically a community that was built by and a platform built by Sam Ovens, a big time uh, I would say what internet entrepreneur slash guru. He created this platform. How did Sam Ovens become known into the community? You probably know
So
better than I do.
Sam Ovens started this company called consulting.com. He went and spent all his money to get consulting.com. And basically what he found that he came from software development in some sense. And he found that he was really he's very focused, just quiet programmer type individual. And he would come into a situation and say, "Why are you doing that?" "Yeah, you don't need to do that." "Why are you doing this?" "What? Don't do that." And he was that laser like focused guy. Speaking of 80/20, dude was the 4%, damn the other 96%. But he took so many people into millionaire status, multimillionaire status, who were just regular Joes. And they're like, "Why are you charging all this money?" And he's like, "Yeah, because I got a playbook that basically get rid of all that nonsense and get you where you need to be." Danielle Leslie was actually how I found out about him. I don't know if you know her. She teaches courses on how to teach courses.
Mm, okay.
So she blew up the entire course world with her courses and was really good at it. She actually worked for Skillshare at one point. And yeah, Sam Ovens found her and was like, "You suck." And she was like, "What are you talking about? What do you know?" "I knew you should do this." And yeah, he took her to like humongous status. And I was like, "Holy crap, she blew up." Sam Ovens did that with consulting.com. So
Mhm.
now he figured out that he was moving so fast that his community was better than his consulting.com thing. And he was like, "You know what? I can sell this whole consulting.com thing and work on building community, because if that's getting me this much money, imagine how much money he can get other people." And he shifted his 4% into this thing now called Skool, which is basically a community platform. You can think of it as a forum, an extended version of Discord, Kajabi. It's got elements of all this community and selling? Maybe you could explain a little of that too.
Yeah, the way I understood it too, the gap in the pro was the Facebook groups, right? You
Right.
were one of the fundamental guys that kinda I knew about Facebook groups really from you, but it was a big thing that blew up pre-pandemic even, where people would just get together and, communicate and have engagements around different type of shared likes and hobbies and things of that nature, like we have one based on comic books, right? Go figure. Who would have thunk? But yeah, so what Sam Ubben saw the problem was that it was too limiting, right? Facebook restrictions notwithstanding, but it was just more around communication and sharing where he saw opportunities to gamify communities to get people up to different levels to excited about sharing, keeping people more engaged on the day to day with new content and having course capabilities, like you said, Teachable. You're familiar with that platform as well,
Mhm.
having components of that, and then he just recently added a paywall so people can start getting compensated for creating these type of communities. And so I think he gave it away almost free for a long time and got all like a lot of these guys, these coaching consultant gurus out there starting with it. Ryan Pineda, the first time I heard about it was really from Ryan Pineda when I took his course. He put a lot of his courses on there, and then he started his whole program was built around Skool. And when I was in there, I realized, oh, this is how this works. So yes, you have Ryan Pineda's brand there, but he's got community moderators. But what's important is because they gamify the platform so well, people are incentivized to comment, share, provide insight. And so they can go up different levels. And obviously, with different levels, gets different access to Ryan, maybe with some free content, things like that. So I saw Ryan Pineda do it. And then another guru that we both talked about previously, Dan Henry, he recently went all in on his Skool platform. So all his courses are there now. And now he's gotten this community that he's built pretty rapidly to about 1,200 people in less than 3 months or so. And so that is what Alex Hormozi probably saw when he approached Sam Evans about investing. And we talked about Hormozi many times on this
Yeah.
platform. But Hormozi is on his path to be a billionaire, came out, gym launch, and then really started building out a platform around providing basically a free game to folks about how to build scalable businesses, right? He's got the $100 million offers and the $100 million leads. He's got some other books coming down the pipeline. Yeah. So to your point, you got Sam Evans who came from this world, built the software piece, built a product that seems to be working well. It's growing pretty aggressively. And then you got this guru that just came out of nowhere, blew up the internet. It's got almost a million followers across all the platforms, Dr. Mosey and his wife, Layla. And now they're combining forces. So, Mr. Benja, what does that look like when you have these two entities coming together? Where do you think this is going?
I don't know how Hormozi plays into this, but I don't know if this is even a legitimate fact here, but this some private equity guy says on Twitter, Alex and Layla Hormozi just acquired a stake in Skool and blah blah blah. I'm sure it was an eight-figure investment. Was it? I don't know. Six-figure investment? I don't know. Seven? I don't know. But the traffic that Alex and Layla get from all that they've been doing, I don't know how well that plays into acquisition.com. It's great traffic. It's great attention. The 2 books, $100 million offers and, $100 million leads, those are phenomenal in terms of traffic, but implementing all that traffic in a way to push behind Skool, which automatically leads all these people into building communities and that whole pricing model of, "Hey, let me pay into something monthly and get that recurring revenue." That's surely attractive to what he's got going on with acquisition.com. So there's speculation there, but I think that's a good match for both of them. Sam Ovens, much more quiet type, can shove off a lot of the marketing and influencer kind of side. He's listen, I'm just focused on making Skool my thing. Who, not how. Hey, Alex, you're my who. Let's go. And then
Mhm.
Alex is, hey, once again, how do I do this? And where do I funnel all this traffic to? And where can we put them? And hey, community is working out great. So I don't know. It just seems like a match.
And if you listen to Alex Hormozi, his big focus has been obviously he came from education and companies and he came from the gym world or more like retail, small mom and pop shops. And so a lot of the portfolio, from my understanding, is like the retail, like a photography shop. a gym shop that he invested to dentists private equity, basically, he's getting a percentage of the company and he's going to get it on the back end when they sell it or they get acquired by someone bigger later on. But this is interesting. So he's going all in on the education platform. And I'm sure this is probably, they probably pitched Sam up as probably multiple times until they finally figured out what makes sense because I figure this is a big whale for them because to your point, he's a content creator. He can probably put a lot of his stuff on there, right? If he ever decides to do that. But I think that's too small potatoes for him. I think he's thinking that this could be the gateway. So let's say if he gets portfolio companies, they automatically get a school access, right? And they can
Mhm.
create their own kind of programs. No matter what you do, you can create a course on what you do, right? And that I
Yeah,
think that's the vision now. And even my thing, I'm trying to create a course around what we do in the healthcare space.
yeah,
No one's doing it, right? It's hard to do, but if you crack that code, man, you really have a stable customer because Russell Brunson talked about this. You can inflect them with your philosophies. And once the people have bought into your philosophies, they're a buyer for life at that point. And so the education component I see as why Alex went all in on something like school, especially if they build a platform that keeps people engaged for the long term. Because that's the hardest part
yeah,
about a community, Mr. Benja, right?
yeah, and I'll read a little bit from his tweet. Definitely part of his strategy because big announcement. This is Alex Hormozi's tweet here. Big announcement. I just made the largest investment of my life into Skool.com, platform with millions of users, blah, 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 talks about Skool. And then he says, I've been looking for an opportunity to make starting a business accessible to everyone. And after 4 years, I finally found it. Skool is that opportunity. So then he goes on to push Skool a little bit and says, if that sounds interesting, we've got something big coming. It involves business, competition, money, prizes, and most importantly, you. Like nothing you've ever seen before. You're going to love it. More details to follow. So, as always, putting a little bit of a carrot underneath the glass. It's like, hey, you want to come get this carrot? And getting you a little hype for the next thing. But it definitely tunes into his idea that he's not selling anything at the very low end. He wants to build like an incubator almost. So a
Mm,
farm league, that's the phrase I was
yeah.
looking for earlier. So start this little farm league of businesses. Once he finds out who can build up and pop off, he's, you know what? We've already got you in the pipeline. You're in the school communities. We've got this and this. I've got competition, money, prizes between all of you.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, to your point, it's just a better lead flow, for lack of a better term. That's what if you're an investor, what you're looking for is more businesses to potentially buy. So the content was one aspect of it. So basically, he said, "I has nothing to sell you," and he's giving 'em all this game for free. And then he put a filter out there. If you have to be at least 3 million in revenue, we'll talk. So obviously the quality is probably dipping now in that lead flow. Yeah, they made
Yeah.
$3 million, but it doesn't have the other things that they need. So now I need to know more about their numbers. And the best way to do that is to actually be on a platform or have access to a platform that gives you numbers. That's probably what his angle is. He wants better quality lead flow to invest. And he'll see the numbers. He's like, oh, look at this guy. He's growing 100% month over month. What do you want? I don't know what he's doing, but he figured it out. What do you want?
Yeah.
Or the other way is reverse engineer what they did, right? And figure out how to help his portfolio company.
Yeah. Yeah. It all seems to work out. Yeah, it's funny, man. I'm just watching these people make these moves and seeing what's happening. Speaking of which, a lot is changing. And let me ask you this: did you see the some of these influencer moves that are being made right now? I think we referenced Joe Rogan a little bit last time. I can't remember, but Joe Rogan was talking ish to CNN, like, how does CNN claim they're doing X, Y, and Z? Man, I get 10 million views off of 45 minutes of a he just starts going off. He's like, CNN, they only get a couple thousand. And they've been doing this for years. They got this big infrastructure. I'm in a room. What you got? Obviously, that wasn't Joe Rogan's voice. That was my voice of Joe Rogan's attitude.
Very similar though, but that's
Mm,
pretty good.
yeah, but yeah, regardless of what you think of Joe Rogan or anybody like this, the fact of calling out traditional media like this, there's it's not an upheaval, but there's a slow tilt happening in some way. So a lot of money's getting shifted. A lot of the ways attention's moving around, it's getting shifted. I don't know. Now you sent me some stuff too. What are you thinking about with the whole influencer situation right now?
I think it's you said influencer situation. I think the better way to define it would be
Okay,
influencer versus old media. So that's what
there we
Joe
go.
Rogan is fighting against with CNN, the old media. So one of the stories that came out recently, have you heard of a guy named Pat McAfee?
Nope.
I didn't know who this guy was till literally like late last year. So this is an ex-football player and not really one of the ones that did something serious in football, like a line quarterback or a receiver. He was a punter. I think everyone knows that football punters don't get a lot of play in the NFL. They played, sure. Then retired, then went on to get massive success on YouTube as a sports commentator. Think in the lines of Barstool Sports, right? Just very outrageous, in your face kind of guy. He wears a black tank top, has a weird haircut. It just blew up to fame. And part of that fame, he was able to get high profile folks on like Aaron Rodgers, the top one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL right now. And so now I'd say this as a backdrop to the old media story. So at the time, ESPN, they had some layoffs recently. If you don't know, ESPN is supposed to be the worldwide leader in sports. They were leading the conversations and having sports talk shows. You heard of Stephen A. Smith, I'm sure. These big bombastic sports folks who have all kinds of opinion, but nothing about what's really going on the court or in the field, but
Yeah.
about contracts, about this, about that. So that was the driving force for ESPN for years. Due to recent cutbacks, as we know, ESPN is part of Disney. It's not the same anymore. And so Disney just said, hey, we need to figure out how we're going to grow. And what they did for the first time ever, usually when they find talent, they just buy them. They say, hey, here's some money. You're going to be with us. You under our umbrella.
Yeah.
You're an employee. This is the first time they ever did a licensing deal for Pat McAfee's show. And it just was amazing. He came in to ESPN and is basically making $85 million for the next 5 years for ESPN to license his show. Um,
So
and
he's
so
he's he's doing. Let me make sure we were clear on this licensing. He's still doing basically his same show, but it's branded with like ESPN and shows up on ESPN. The outlet turns into ESPN for a while, is and then
Y yeah, so if I go into too many details around, like, exactly how the licensing deal is structured, but I do know that he's pretty much doing the same show that he did on YouTube. But
mhm,
the fact is now he is under so ESPN is a distribution channel. I think he still has it on, YouTube, but ESPN is like the main distribution channel, and because he's part of the ESPN umbrella, he can show up on other ESPN shows, like, for instance, College Game Day, which is one of the key marquee shows that highlights college football, which is a growing sport. One of the
yeah,
few, be honest with you, and I can tell you what's going on there too in a second. But so he is a key growth engine, so ESPN thought, to grow into new spaces, and one of those spaces is young men who are looking to gamble. ESPN is going all in on gambling and sports. We know that's a big thing. And so they need the audience to stay because that you remember that's why ESPN was trying to buy Barstool Sports. Remember? That was one of the big
right,
reasons.
right.
They wanted that college bro part of the ESPN umbrella so they can sell them because they have a new app, ESPN Bet, as sports betting is going to be huge. So, or it is huge.
Yeah, what's the name of the app that everybody likes to bet with?
I don't know. There's so many.
There's a yeah, but
FanDuel is more like dealing with you know, what's it called? Fantasy League. But yeah, there's a lot of them out there now. So a lot of guys, young guys I know betting on football and stuff like that. And that's
DraftKings.
DraftKings, another one. Yep. Yep. FanDuel, DraftKings, they're all around the same. But real betting on sports is now a thing. And now they need the audience to drive traffic to these apps and these platforms. So make a long story short, Pat McAfee had Aaron Rodgers on and recently, and basically they were hinting at one of the prized employees of Disney, Jimmy Kimmel, and insinuated that he was in cahoots with Jeffrey Epstein, who is person non grata due to some of the unfortunate things he did.
Such
Something
a strange just section of humanity. Anything connected with Epstein, just the strange.
we don't get into those conspiracy theories, but yeah, go look it up. There's some names that were dropped.
Yeah,
So everybody thinks anyone on that list is basically in cahoots with the shenanigans that Jeffrey Epstein got into. So we're not going to reiterate what those were. But make a long story short, Jimmy Kimmel did not like that. Went off on Pat McAfee and Aaron Rodgers, of course. And Pat McAfee did a culpa and said, "Hey, I'm sorry. We will never do this again. Aaron Rodgers will not show up on the show." But don't you know, Aaron Rodgers showed up the next damn day and doubled down on what he said about Jimmy Kimmel. And so now ESPN is between a rock and a hard place on saying how they can't really cancel this guy because this they brought him in for attention, and he's doing exactly what he's supposed to do, draw attention to ESPN. But it wasn't the attention that ESPN wants. So I say this, Mr. Benja, is is old media ready for new media, or is this the same tale that we've seen over and over again where these influencers come on board to old media and flame out pretty rapidly because they can't come together?
See, what I wonder is, like, over time, I think the biggest mind switch for me was back when AOL bought Time Warner.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I was thinking, wow, you mean the guys who stuff all of my magazines with these stupid freebie discs? I actually had a collection of those discs. It was like in the hundreds. It was stupid, but I collected those AOL discs at one point. I should have kept the collection, could have sold it on eBay. But but AOL was this internet portal. They had all this money coming in and they went and bought Time Warner. And I was like, wait a minute, you can do that? You could be a small upstart company and just have so much money flowing in that your stock rises and you can use your stock power and control in the market and all the attention you're getting to take over one of these bigger, older, established companies. It just didn't seem right in my head at the time. I didn't understand it. But I was like, yeah, I guess this is how things can rock and roll. You can get down with it. And while that played out in its own way, it's got me thinking of the way things happen now, where you can start to have companies like, what if DraftKings and Barstool or whoever gets big enough and they start taking away large chunks of old media? Or what if old media says, hey, listen, we'll do a deal where basically you buy our name. Like you've seen those deals before where it's, yeah, we're basically going to merge, be acquired by, or we're going to acquire some other company and we'll just transfer the name over as name recognition, but we'll be out this new online entity. So you asked me what I thought about influencers in the new media versus the old traditional media. I think there's just going to be some bumpy transitions like that. Like whose name takes over? Is the name going to be ESPN2 or maybe ESPN2 becomes DraftKings
Mm.
or just something like that? What happens to these entities, the naming, the branding? When you merge a company, it's you've got two redundant positions, director of marketing. Who's going to be the director of marketing now? And they fight it out. So I don't know. It's gonna be really interesting, but you can't deny there will be some deaths on the battlefield, by the way. Like, we're talking with Joe Rogan and the podcast space that we were talking about, how Stitcher just up and disappeared because they got bought by
Mhm.
Sirius, dismantled for pieces, and then just, "Huh, Stitcher? What are you talking about? I don't know what that is." And everybody's, "Oh, man, we love Stitcher." "No, you love Sirius XM. Come get with us." And it's
Mhm.
like, "Really? Did you just do that?"
I think that s new media is gonna win out, let's be honest. I'm looking
Yeah,
at my
yeah.
kids, they don't know anything. It's hard for them every once in a while, it's hard for them to watch, though, like a whole movie or TV show
Mhm.
because they're so used to the short form that they see on YouTube or the shorts they see on YouTube Shorts. They're not on
Yeah.
TikTok yet. I'm just like, "Oh, God, don't want them on that." So, now this is my kids are what, 12 and 8, but I'm saying this to say that this next generation, even kids a little bit older than them, they've been saying they just don't see they don't know anything about old media. They don't know how to
Yeah.
turn a channel. They don't know what ABC is, NBC. To them, that's they don't even know what MTV is. To them, it's irrelevant. It's just a show. They
Yeah.
know a brand show, and so or a brand entity. And so I'm saying this to say that I see what ESPN has. ESPN is a brand to us. That's we know what it is. We grew up on it.
Right.
But for these newer generations, they don't know what that is. But they know Pat McAfee. So if ESPN can't get this to work, I think Pat McAfee's still gonna be fine. He's winning in that, and he may become bigger than ESPN one day, but ESPN desperately needs this to work with Pat McAfee because If they can figure that out, then they can merge. To your point, I think there'll be a merge or something where the old media and new media get together, and so they can still draw their attention. And ESPN can be a truly streaming platform and can get the college bros and other ones who want to gamble and do other things for the future. But ESPN as a static cable station is
Oh,
irrelevant. So
yeah, yeah.
I would
And
just say that to your point, and CNN, we know CNN is on its last legs. Let's be honest, right? This presidential election so far has been a snooze. I put that prediction out there last week. I said the presidential campaign is a show, and you need a star. There's no star yet. Now the hope is Trump can revitalize the stardom for this
yeah.
campaign, but if he can't reignite, oh, CNN is gonna have some big trouble because they every 4 years, it's their Olympics, man. This is where they make their money. If they can't get people to watch things like this and get people excited about the day-to-day grind of the news, they will die out and new media will win. We talked about I know we were talking about sports, but moving over to politics because it's very similar. We talked about David, was it
Patrick
Bet
Bet David.
yeah, Patrick Bet David, excuse me. He is go all in on political. You see
Mhm.
that? And he's actually the political and other folks are seeing him as a rising star. Just like, what? This dude is a rising star in the politic conversation.
Yeah.
And so I say that to say is like he's new media, and they're gonna people are trusting him more than they trust CNN. Remember, they used to have James Earl Jones, that deep voice. This is
Top.
like that
Yeah.
that authority, right? That just how dare you question what we say to you? It's just that's those days are gone, man. And so I say all to say is I think new media will win out. This is probably the last gasp of old media trying to figure this out.
Mhm.
And I think the influencers are realizing, like Mr. Beast, I'm sure people tried to old media tried to probably co-opt him for many times. He said, nah, dog. And I think more and more of these influencers, they're gonna say, you know what? Because I think Pat McAfee's realizing that too. I don't need ESPN. He didn't. That's why he got $85 million from him.
Yeah.
But now he's realizing, oh, 85 million comes with some stipulations. I don't know about this. So anyway, that's just my 2 cents on it, Mr. Benja.
Oh, no, totally. In that respect, definitely. Old media as a technology, as a platform, like going to cable, that dies. I'm never siding against technology. That dies. I guess I was referring more to the transition of technology, a brand to the new technologies. So how does that happen? Still not sure. As I said, deaths on the battlefield, entire industries are going to be fractured. We'll see what happens. I'm not sure.
Mr. Benja, can I switch things up a little bit?
Oh, go ahead.
Can I ask you this?
Yes. Oh, God. Oh, I know where this is going.
You think you do. You think you do. Can I ask you this? Speaking of new media versus old media,
Yeah.
what do you think about Blue Eye Samurai
Oh,
coming in hard? See, I know you didn't know I was gonna talk about coming in hard on anime, even though they're not from Japan. Mr. Benja, we did talk about this in the run notes, so I know I'm throwing this out at you, but you put that in there. It came back to me, so I just want to put this little two tidbits out there because that. What'd you think of that anime, man? What'd you think?
it was good. It was good. I watched the whole thing. I liked it. And yes, there's a butt coming.
Oh
Um,
no,
but first of all, I did actually classify it as anime, regardless of where it got sourced from. Technically,
okay.
technically, it's not the Boondocks.
Don't
They
get
just
canceled. Don't get
what
canceled.
was that? What was that one? Afro Samurai. That's classified as anime. The Boondocks was classified as American urban anime or whatever. Basically, the stuff gets classified as anime. It's like somebody in Ireland is doing rap. It's not like it's rap is a black music form and which it is and everything, but it's not like we go over there and say, "Hey, you can't call that rap. It's anime rap." Let me clear that up first. But I didn't I have problems with characters that I kinda have issues with.
Oh,
At a certain point, I'm like, "Okay, you're the blue-eyed samurai, but you're a little bit of a scumbag. Calm down."
but that's the point. Uh,
Yes.
That you know that's the point. You a character, but that's the point.
Okay.
She, dude. See, Mr. Benja. Oh man, I'm just in shock, Mr. Benja. This thing
Flabbergasted.
was fire, man. This thing was fire, man. This was I it came in hot, and I was like, mesmerized how good this was.
What made you watch it? Uh,
I heard reviews, man, podcast guy. I'm watching
okay,
stuff. I was like, okay. Holidays is when I tried things I normally would, and I had time. I binged
alright.
that thing so quick, man. I was like, man, this is great. Mr. Binger, but that's the whole point. She was a scumbag because two things. Number one, blue eyes symbolized that she was a monster by her own people.
Mhm,
And the fact that what created her was probably a sense of violence. And so that was number one. But samurai, oxymoron. Samurai is honorable. She
mm,
was battling those 2 sides of herself to become, and then at the end, not spoiler, but she's trying to become more honorable. And remember her, I forgot her assistant, but he pretty much said, "You're not a samurai," one moment, and then that's when
yeah,
she started to become a little bit more honorable, and I think that's the battle within her. The blue eye is trying to take o the evil blue-eyed devil is trying to take over the samurai, and so that's what's powerful about that character, even though to your point, they are a scumbag. But that's the point.
yeah, yeah.
Right?
As I said, it wasn't bad, but why you giving me the fingers?
Fire, man.
The
That's the
fires,
flames,
okay.
brother. Look, I know you watch a lot of stuff all the time, the action scenes. You know how they filmed it, right? They actually did the, live action I think we talked about this live action
No,
performances first. And then they animated so
okay,
the gravity, the real world physics look realistic. This could potentially actually happen.
yeah,
And so that's why the action scenes look more fluid and all that. But the storyline, I like the fact that it wasn't just about her. Everybody had an arc, right? Like the main characters, there was an arc to the princess, right? And what she wanted to become. And I love that part where she just stood up. She said, I know what I want to be. I want to be great. Flames. I was like, "Oh, snap." She has a character arc. So it just everybody has their own arc, man, and that to me was, like, amazing. So anyway, man, and then also, man, they always had the fire song, the Kill Bill song, Battle Without Honor or Humanity. Dun, 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 dun. When she was training with the
yeah, yeah.
sword, man. You know, like, that just gets me hyped, man, when you see someone the fight montage and training montage, so anyway, I just wanted to throw that in there. I know that was a surprise attack on you on what we're gonna
Oh,
talk
yeah,
about, but
not a
Mr.
problem, not a
Binger,
problem.
fire, fire.
I'm glad you liked it, man. It was as I said, I finished watching it, it wasn't bad. I'm not in the comments flaming it, but it just wasn't, like, great, and I thought the lead was scumbagish. It's just
So you hated it.
why he's for anyone listening, he's over here writing in the notes, "I hated it, but he loved it. Terrible." That's gonna be my legacy now. I hated it.
When it goes on to win Emmys and awards. Look, man, this is a little raw though. There's a little too much sex in there for anime, but the Rock they went there, man, and it was very adult, but loved it, man. It was just everything out, and then the fact that there's a bigger story here. I want to get into that,
Oh, yeah.
and also the history of feudal Japan and
That was cool.
what that meant. I thought that was very powerful. We don't really get stories. I guess we do in some aspects, but it was really powerful. And nah, man, like I said, I'm glad you watched it. I got another recommendation. Go check out Slow Horses. See if you like that on Apple TV. There it is.
Flow of Horses. Alright, we'll see if it's better than a C.
But let me just put this. I'll give you a premise of it real quick, and we'll get to the next thing. Imagine if James Bond got old and they give an F.
Mhm. Interesting. I like the premise.
Here you go.
Alright, uh,
Comedy. That's all I gotta say. Comedy.
nice. Let me ask you this, talking about new media and everything, what do you think about Elon Musk and Lindy Yaccarino's latest proclamation about X officially being pushed as the everything app, and it's going to be video first? How does this even feel to you? What do you care? It's pushing the landscape and or is it just a flailing attempt?
X gonna give it to you. Gonna give it to you. It's another thing that they're trying to do to stay relevant in this space. I guess it could work, but the thing I'm amazed about before we even talk about that is that all the sentiments of its demise is premature. Seems like Twitter and X is still thriving, man. I'm still seeing people post. I'm still seeing influencers influence on there. And is this thing
Influence
dying or not?
influencer's gonna influence.
But on Twitter, there was talks of threads. I
Hey,
hope people say Threads is the Twitter killer, YouTube, the other channels, but it's if you have a platform there, you're still there regardless of what's happening with Elon letting free speech go wild or attacking people or doing all this other stuff. I can't believe what people say anymore about things because I don't see the reality of what people are still seeing value in Twitter. So that to Mr. Benja, as a game designer who thinks about product and usability, does that mean that this product is unkillable because it's that good?
it's not unkillable because it's that good. You just don't need as many people flooding to these things as you would expect. You've got X being a subscription-based service, first of all, so that's gonna be able to float it a little bit. You remember Elon Musk literally did his 80/20 thing and fired 80% of the staff. I was wondering if he was sitting around saying, "Hey, let's do an 80/20, 80% gone." I actually believe he was sitting around doing that. But yeah, you've got aside from ad revenue, you've got a lot of people that are turning into subscribers. I was Let me tell this little story real quick. So I was on Threads and trying to start up some conversations, some talks, and bouncing around. And I was thinking to myself, huh, this is a cool app. I love Threads, and that's where I'm doing my front facing content. That's where I go first. But then I was like, let me copy this over and paste it in X, copy something over, put it in X, format it a little bit for that audience. And I was looking through and I was like, wow, it's actually functionally pretty good. Things were working quickly. I was hopping around here and there. And check this out. I tapped on someone's thread, X tweet. Tapped on someone's tweet, and it took me to a video. And all of a sudden, I was like in TikTok, but it had all the comments there. And right when I saw somebody, I could tap on their profile, and it went back to the Twitter kind of profile. And I saw all the things they were saying, so I didn't have to watch all their videos. But anytime I saw a video, it just all of a sudden took me into the TikTok style, and I'm watching that. And then every so often, I see a Twitter space come by, and I'm like, you know what? I've been scrolling long enough. Let me just tap on this Twitter space and listen to this clubhouse style discussion and go about my business. And it's it's starting to come together in little subtle ways. And every once in a while, I try something. Like I tried to download a video, a little download video button came up. I tapped on it and it said, "Hey, I would let you download the video, but you got to be a subscriber." And I was like, "Ooh, here it comes." So I actually have, I actually have, I not, I don't want to say hope because people are going to say, "You hope Elon wins? I hate you." I think that this is going to do better than people are assuming.
Wow, hot take. Really hot take. I didn't know it could do all that now. It looks like they're really working on improving the product, which is always good. And so the biggest thing was, are they going to do advertising or subscription? But because the big controversy, remember last year, late last year, was Elon Musk was basically calling out old media about advertising. He said, I don't want you on my platform in so many words. So now they have to go all in on subscriptions. X does. And so to your point, if they do things like that, make it easy to find folks, understand who they are. If you're an influencer and you can do all that in a seamless platform and get people to know and trust you pretty easily in one platform, that's a powerful thing, but we'll see. I know people still do it, still using it. They swear by it. A lot of folks don't, right? And
Don
so
Lemon uses it.
he's gonna, yeah. Was that the big news too? Came out of that they're gonna pay all these old media style folks to have their own kind of TV talk show or something on Twitter, on X going
Yeah,
forward.
yeah, like we mentioned, who was it? Tulsi Gabbard, Jim Rome, Don Lemon, all are part of this new production, whatever is happening behind the scenes. I'm not exactly sure, but they've got their own way of putting out content through as a X first as a platform, which is
Yeah.
interesting. Don't know how that's gonna play out, but we'll see.
I don't either. But like I said, in YouTube, I trust. I see everybody's on YouTube, and even the ones that I think people realize YouTube, if nothing else, has been the game for over a decade at least. When did it start officially? I can't recall. About 15 years. If you can grow on YouTube, it's like the standard now. Standards can be broken, so we'll see what Twitter can do. If it can do both, dominate short form communication, even though Threads is threatening it, and then it's also
Mm.
guys do some video style short form, which TikTok dominates. But it's hey, you don't want to if you're old, you don't want to do both, just come to Twitter. So we'll see. I don't know. It could work, but it's a lot, man. I don't think the young folks are enmeshed in TikTok. And
No,
I
they're
just
not.
don't think they're gonna go over to Twitter. And then also the people who are on YouTube, that's such a big asset. It's just hard to change that asset over
Yeah.
to whatchamacallit, to Twitter or X. So it's gonna be one of those things that, unless I don't know, they do something different. But I'm glad the product is improved. So I might go check it out.
Yeah, it feels different if you hop around. And yes, it's got the AI component to it too, which you have to subscribe for. So interesting stuff there.
What's the AI component do?
There's just an AI button and you can ask it things. I don't know much more past that because if you tap on it, it asks you to be a subscriber. And I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know what that's about.
Another subscription thing. Wow.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Uh,
I don't know. It's gonna be tough, man.
but it's got a money distribution plan that was put forth. There was a chart somewhere and I couldn't find it, but basically the creator revenue split is bigger than Twitch, bigger than Facebook, Instagram, all the other platforms, bigger than YouTube even by a sliver. So everybody talked about how much money YouTube was giving out in terms of a revenue split. This could be a thing for people if they find their audiences on X, then they get paid X dollars. We'll see what happens with it.
Yeah. So I'm looking at this. Advertising accounted for nearly 90% of Twitter's $5 billion in annual revenue in 2021. Now that was a couple years ago, but I'm sure it's still in the 80%. So that's a long way to go to make up for subscription. But hey,
Yeah.
Elon's pretty much funding this. And to your point, we make investments and people you create. I think that's powerful. You create a product, and that's why me and my business partner talked about. You just add more value to it, man. It becomes more and more valuable. So it just becomes like a no brainer to buy it. So they're gonna get you, Mister Benja. You already hit two paywalls already on Twitter. You got one more. You gonna buy that thing?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm still mad that I had to buy a Meta subscription,
Oh,
but I'm not.
I saw the X. I saw the little blue check mark on Threads.
Yeah,
But,
I'm a jabroni for that one. But I'm not gonna rant about that now. Before the pod, we were talking a little bit about Star Wars. I think you got a little rant on this.
man, yeah. So Star Wars, man, did you hear that Star Wars is finally going to film a new Star Wars movies this year? That's wonderful, great.
OMG.
But Mr. Benja, can you believe they did the most laziest ass thing they could ever done? The movie they're announcing is basically The Mandalorian and Grogu. I can't believe this, Mr. Benja. They going double down, triple down on a movie, a full-fledged 2 hours that I got paid to watch a TV show in the movie theater. They're bringing everybody back. Jon Favreau. They're bringing back your buddy, the great Dave Filoni to write it, man. But does this seem like some franchise that's on the bleeding edge of something great? I don't know, Mr. Benja. What is Star Wars now? Are we going all in on the Filoni verse? Is this what people really want to see in the movie theater? Because I don't think they're watching on TV. What makes you think they're going to watch it in the movies? I just don't feel that greatness. We don't even have a great villain yet, and that's what makes Star Wars great in the first place with Darth Vader. So my rant is about how I'm very disappointed in where Star Wars is going. It just seems travesty that we haven't had a movie since 2019. And that movie sucked so bad that was the first Star Wars movie I didn't watch at least twice. Oh, man, it was so terrible. So, I'm just saying, Mr. Benja, that Star Wars needs to get its act together. They're losing their older fan base, the newer fan base, all they know is a plush toy called Baby Yoda, and that's it. They don't care about anything about these characters, and it's so sad to see Star Wars just die on the vine like that. Kathleen Kennedy's gotta leave, man. She's done. I'm sorry.
Mm,
That's what I got. That's what
hot
I
take on a platter.
Oh, anything else, Mr. Bench, on your side?
Nah, man, I'm probably gonna jump online, start calling people out since that seems to be the thing in 2024. I'll be Cat Williams. Just start calling everybody out.
You know, you're gonna call me. I'm going, that real Theo Harvey, man. I tell you, man, he just stole my whole thing. He's on IG now. I was on IG before him.
Maybe I'll do a Marvel version, start calling out all the characters.
If you could do it in the style of Cat Williams, man, more kudos. That was that thing at 50 million
Kingpin
views.
Kingpin, I saw him wearing a Hawaiian shirt. How he gonna come F with me? I'm Cat Williams. He wearing a Hawaiian shirt.
I told Kingpin no. You can't touch his body. You know,
They said
Kingpin go for the body.
first step is a Hawaiian shirt. Next step is a Hawaiian dress. Don't make me
I
put you
love
in.
it.
Sorry. If
No,
you
we
saw the
go for
interview, don't know.
days. We'd go for days on that. So everyone, wow, Mr. Bench is always wonderful. Great talk to you. So everyone, if you like this content, please like, subscribe, and comment. Show versus business. We are on X, Twitter, so go check that out. YouTube and Instagram. Listen to us at Spotify, iTunes, or wherever you listen to podcasts. You go check out our website at Show versus Business. Mr. Benja, have a great one.
Peace.